Hello, and a very warm welcome to Interreg Europe webinar, Solutions for Healthier People and Planet. In the next hour and a half, we will look into how interregional cooperation contributes to the zero pollution ambition and share some inspiring solutions from regions around Europe. This webinar is organized by Interreg Europe as a partner event of the EU Green Week. My name is Mia Itanen and I am your moderator. Before we get started with the session, I just want to let you know that the session is being recorded. A recording will be available afterwards, along with a webinar report and all of the materials that we will show today. As participants, you are muted and don't have access to your camera, but you are still very, very welcome to contribute throughout the session. In fact, why don't you start right now, find a questions tab on the sidebar of your GoToWebinar tool and let us know where you are joining from. Type in the country or the region where you're coming from, and let's see where the participants are joining from. Then let's take a look at what we have on the agenda for today. We have some project examples and some very interesting information. I would ask our speakers to turn on their cameras so that we can do a quick round of introductions. For the first half of today's session, we are going to look at the good practices for reducing pollution and greener future, and we'll learn about pilot actions. We'll do this with Martin Romantschuk from TANIA project and the University of Helsinki. We'll have Marek from INOTEX and the Reset project, and we'll hear from Matti Allam from Film London and Green Screen how we can make the world a bit better place. After the first part of these project examples, we will move to the second part of the program, during which you will meet representatives from our program. We will start with Astrid Severin, a thematic expert of our policy learning platform, who will tell you what kind of services we offer and how you can make use of them to draw inspiration for your own activities. And we will close with a presentation from my colleague Nicolas Singer from our joint secretariat. And he will tell you about green issues and topics, not only in this Interreg Europe program, but in the future program. So as you see, we have a very, very full agenda for you today, and we'll move into it in just a moment. But before that, I just want to know a little bit more about you. Help us frame the discussion a little bit. Keep posting those countries and regions in the questions box. Share your comments on social media using hashtag EU Green Week and tag us with Interreg Europe on any comments you might have. And we're going to launch a very quick poll because I want to know how well you know us. This will help us frame the discussion. So let's get the poll running. How familiar are you with Interreg Europe? Are you maybe already involved in one of our projects, or maybe even more than one project? Have you already made use of some of the policy learning platform services? Maybe you've already done both. Or is this your first time attending an Interreg Europe event? Are you more interested in learning more about cooperation or the solutions, or just finding some inspiration for your policy work, especially on green topics? Let us know. Just one quick click to tell us a bit about your profile. I see that the votes are coming in. Do take a moment to click. I see that there is a very interesting division. A little over half of you voted already, so I'm going to give you a little bit more time. Pick the most appropriate answer. If you don't find one, feel free to comment more on it through the questions tab. 71% of the votes are in. I think we can close the poll and have a look at the results. So let's see. We do have some project partners here. Very warm welcome. Please let us know which project you represent. Type that in the questions tab. We have some people who have already made use of the platform services as well. I'm so glad to hear that. Why don't you tell us what you've done with the platform already? We'll take a look at your responses when we get back to Astrid. So type the platform service that you've used already to the questions tab. And half of you are interested in cooperation solutions and inspiration. So let's get going, because that's what we are here for today. With this, we are ready to move over to our first speaker, who will be Martin Romantschuk from the University of Helsinki. At this point, I will ask the other speakers to turn off their cameras, so we will come back to you later. But right now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into a specific good practice and some experiences in the Päijät-Häme region in Finland. They've been involved in the TANIA project, and they've found some novel solutions to clean the soil in the region. But I will let Martin tell you more about that. So Martin, the floor is yours. Very briefly, sorry to interrupt, Martin, we cannot hear you at the moment. Could I ask you to please unmute your microphone as we move along?
It is green.
Yes, now we hear you. Perfect, you're good
Okay.
to go. I will let you continue. Let's move to your introduction and tell us more about the TANIA work and how it has inspired nanorauta in Finland.
Yeah, I'm Matti Allam, professor in environmental biotechnology at the University of Helsinki, but active in Lahti, where there is a part of the University of Helsinki here in Lahti. And the TANIA project started some years ago, and it will continue until the end of this year, and we have actually applied for a short continuation, so we'll see how it goes. So motivation to take part came from the regional authorities here, Päijät-Häme Regional Council. They suggested, they had been contacted by European partners and knew that we have been working on in situ bioremediation for many years. More than 20 years I have been working on cleaning soil underground without digging it up. And now we heard from these partners that there are other ways that we hadn't been testing before. So this using nano iron, nano zero valent iron. So normally it has been used by spreading it by pumping underground. But our idea was then to combine with our in situ electrokinetic pumping, where we spread normally nutrients and bacteria underground. But now we have a chance to test together with the European experts how to spread nano iron underground. This picture is from our electrokinetic treatment of a fuel station in middle Finland, and it worked. But that was before we had the idea of using nano iron. This was with biostimulation, making bacteria degrade oil and gasoline. Next slide. So this our part, which we are interested in is the upper part, novel remediation techniques. But for example, the Italian, French, Hungarian, and Greece partners, they took care of some of the other issues here, but we concentrated on the remediation techniques. Next one. Next slide, please. One major issue and idea here was that in TANIA was that we have a soil research station in southern Lahti, which has 16 of these big lysimeters, almost two cubic meters each. And in France, in Lorraine, they had similar ones, different construction, but similar idea. And the partner in Tuscany, they wanted to build something similar so that we can in the future make comparisons. And that is ongoing. We are trying to get to make it possible for the Italian partners to build a similar station in Tuscany. Next slide. So from University of Lorraine, they had a lot of experience with using zero-valent iron, and they had collaboration with companies in Czech Republic, for example, and we got in contact with them, and we have been interacting with them some, and received also material to test this zero-valent iron functionality. And the lead partner, again, the Italian partners, they were gave us the idea to apply for ERDF funding, and that actually did work. It's kind of Finnish funding. The project Nanorauta started that way. Nanorauta means nano iron. Rauta is iron in Finnish. So now, and they, on the other hand, in Tuscany, they are planning to build this station. Hopefully, it will work next day. And here on the picture, we have now ongoing. It started actually yesterday, and I took this picture yesterday, so it's very fresh. Almost, I mean, each of those 12 containers in the picture have something like 600 or up to 800 liters of contaminated soil. We contaminated it with PCE, perchloroethylene, and now we're trying to clean it and comparing whether we can spread nanoiron with electrokinetics in those containers, and the controls don't have the electricity then. Next slide. So next steps and future outlooks. Well, we already have the Nanorauta, and it goes on for some time still, and at least one PhD thesis will be generated, and a lot of interaction with small and medium-sized enterprises, both in Finland and in, for example, Czech Republic and Germany. We have contacts. So, and we have a lab test done, and it seemed to work. Pilot tests started yesterday, as I mentioned, and we have hopes for making a field test in Eastern Finland this summer, and that would be great. And another outcome part, kind of in a way, is that we have plans with Nordic and Baltic country partners to have another type of remediation project dealing with landfill leachates, and that will be applied for in the fall, I think. Next slide. Well, I'm summarizing. To get the chance to interact with European partners that are experts in different fields that complement ours, it was great. And that might generate new business both for businesses and maybe also new startup companies. And new ideas for joint activities. So international comparative research that will be maybe hopefully possible with having in Italy, France, and Finland similar setups that we can compare different climate regions. And then our goal finally is to be able to use in full scale, large scale. This picture is from Sweden, and we have had tests there, but they were only partially successful. But with the new nanoiron project or technology, we might be able to solve also big area cleanups. So thank you, and if there are questions, I don't know if it's now or later on, but thank you.
Thank you, Martin. That was indeed very interesting. We will take questions a little bit later on. If you have any specific ones, you can post them through the questions tab, and we'll cover them after the next presentation. I would just very quickly ask you at this point, before we move over to Jan and hear what has been done in the Czech Republic, just very quickly, you touched upon some of the inspiration that you took away from the project partners and some new ideas, but But if we talk about these nano-remediation methodologies, what do you see as the key differences compared to some of the more, let's say, traditional methods? So if we think about the bigger context of health, of the environment and people and so on, how does these types of innovative approaches contribute to a cleaner environment?
Well, the mostly used is excavation and taking it to a station, either to be just dumped there or to be treated there. But that means that a lot of fuel is used and a lot of soil excavated, and new clean soil has to be brought to the place. And the idea there is that it's fast, and in a way it's guaranteed. But our methods, that we have used for some decades, they do it underground, in situ, and is more sustainable, but it's not as fast, so that's a challenge. But now with the nano iron, we hope to be able to make it also not as fast as excavating, but still much faster than our traditional bioremediation technology.
Yeah, that's indeed very interesting. So I think we're all curious to see how your further testing and research goes, and see how far this can indeed be scaled up. We will come back to you, Martin, in case there are more questions. But right now, I want to thank you very much for this inspiring presentation. We will continue with another example. And as said, we'll discuss the questions afterwards. So right now, I want to move from Finland towards the Czech Republic and continue with Marek from INOTEX, who has been involved in the RESET project. They've been working on textile innovation and coming up with innovations and new solutions to work towards a more sustainable textile industry. So Jan, could you maybe share some inspiration stemming from this collaboration? We'll leave the floor to you, and I'll come back to you with questions afterwards.
Mia, do you hear me, please, to start my presentation?
Yes, yes, we do hear you. So you are indeed good to go. Please continue.
So next slide, most probably. Yes, so I will speak and show you some experiences and results done within our participation as Czech CLATEX cluster of technical textile member in RESET Interreg Europe project network. This project was divided into 6 key policy themes, where first was focusing on recycling in textile and waste disposal. Second one, water consumption and energy saving and organization of sustainability. The third one was dealing with new sustainable chemistry, including reduction of chemical substances. The next one, dealing with smart textiles and new ways of production. Eco creativity, natural fibers, and short value chains. And last one, dealing with new materials and new applications. Action plans were aiming for significant reduction of the environmental impact of textile and clothing production across Europe, increasing the competitiveness of the sector, because as you know, textile is still one of the key producer of waste, consumer of water and energy. And due to this fact, European Commission decided to place textile and clothing sector in between the pilot disciplines or branches of Green Deal. So it was just very useful, helpful to get European umbrella joint activity and exchange of experiences, because textile is a typical sector diversified into plenty of small and medium companies. And this coordination action was supporting transfer of knowledges and also learning whatever textile companies in different countries need to be ready to move towards the circular economy. Next slide, please. I will now present a number of obtained results on the Czech side. One of them was Cornet, a project called Blenabis, focusing on blends of natural and biosynthetic fibers as an alternative for eco-efficient yarns and home textiles. Partners were from Germany. Czech INOTEX part was focusing on this natural fiber side. As many of you know, oil seeds of linen are an important resource of omega fatty acids, so it is growing production of oilseed flax, and until now stalks were as waste. We have developed a technology called bioretting, or for spraying on the yard after the pulling of flax, or as a special wet processing after the harvest. And this is way supporting possibility to extract oilseed fibers from waste oilseed flax stalks. Then we combined this natural waste-based resource with German part of the project, focusing on spinnability of bio-based polyamide. This was also related to Team 5 eco-creativity and natural fibers. Next slide, please. And another area where there are huge volumes of potential waste based on textile is area of hospital care or elderly people, nursing homes, textiles. And one of potential tools to support sustainability of resources and circular economy is utilization of waste textiles from this sector. And we started in the area of construction of more durable constructions containing synthetic polyester instead of pure cotton. And then we have developed also functional treatments like antimicrobial, hydrophilicity, moisture transport, etc. Because mechanical properties and durability of substrate was or is longer as durability of those functional treatments, we deal also with development of so-called reactivation of functionalities during the industrial hospital laundry. We are now also participating with partners from Germany, namely Saxony, neighbor region, in starting interregional action health textile. And to be close related to European textile platform for textile activities, we are taking part on circular economy strategic program of Europe. Next, please. To the second theme, water consumption, minimization and energy saving. One of example is our processing of dyeing of cellulosics and recently also wool based on precationization of cellulosics with our new developed product. And it is possible to increase reasonably yield of dyeing bath. You can see it on the left picture in the contrary to conventional one, and you can also realize very interesting deep and brilliant shades with reactive dye stuffs which are normally not attainable. It is a way how to shorten processing time, reduce consumption of water and also dye stuff. And it is also open a door for designers' creativity, because if we pre-modify part of substrate and combine it with non-treated, we can then realize important multicolor effects in one single dyeing process. We communicated these ideas with next partners of Reset Consortia in Italy, Poland, UK, and also in Portugal with CTF. Next, please. Next example of this policy team 2 is a project dealing with UV LED curable coatings and finishings as alternative to the conventional bath impregnations or exhaust processes. It is a very fast process in the contrary to conventional one, reducing significantly consumption of energy, reducing space needed for installation of technologies. We continue now with development of special chemistry which is needed for this new system of curing of functional treatments on textiles. This is one of step forward in the intention of European platform task from wet to dry. Next slide, please. In the policy team 3, we focus on development of new environmentally cleaner substances for textile finishing, namely for functionalization. An example is our Clatex cluster project CP FTEX, where we have developed and introduced on the market new flame retardant Texaflam DFR for durable treatment of cotton and also polyester-rich blends used in the area of protective clothing. And next example is running project with Spanish side, focusing on fluorocarbon-free water-resistant soil release durable systems, where we are now in industrial scale-up stage of this project. Next slide, please. New materials and new applications. That's a plentiful area of possibilities, and it is very actual to start with learning how to follow new ways of introduction of regenerated and bio-based fibers by use of existing technologies to be able to construct materials to implement these new coming emerging fibers. This is task of our MoveCirc project of collective research of Clatex, and we collaborate with European Technology Platform participating in a bio-based fibers strategic program. We have discussed within exchange of informations with our English colleagues of RESET Consortia. It was an excellent opportunity to learn more about situation in UK. We opened a discussion with Chemira company, producer of top quality wool and bast fiber blends for upholstery. And it was a good opportunity to present and test our oilseed flax-based new materials, which fulfilled also the requirements of British standard for inflammability of interior textiles. Next example is 3D knit cornet project, where our colleagues are working with Saxony people to replace polyurethane foams from construction of domestic interior upholstery to get easier recovery and recycling, because this 3D distance constructions are also based on polyester as top side of seat covers. Next slide, please. Let's go to the conclusions. I must say that it was very useful for INOTEX and Clatex to take part on this RESET Consortia and network activity, because this was interesting opportunity to improve internationalization and multidisciplinarity of our research. It was also very helpful to learn, understand and identify of industry needs in different participating regions. Approval of R&D activities with speed up of disseminations, selecting opportunities with higher technological readiness level to get scale up, and sharing of experiences and good practices was an instrument to do so. It is now of high importance to be ready to follow circular economy and Green Deal in textile and clothing. And as one of results was also on the Czech side setup of regional innovation strategy 3 program of 3 leading textile regions in this textile domain, defining next topics, including steps towards circular economy and reuse of textile fiber materials. And we are also starting pilot action within Regiotex Europe on COVID-19 response and recovery of interregional partnership, including study of bankability of selected interregional pilot plant investments. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jan. I think there was a lot of inspiration, let's say there. We're talking about solutions today, and there definitely was a lot of different seeds for innovations and inspirations in your presentation. I think we could spend a lot of time talking about any of the ideas that you just presented. I'm just seeing that, you know, all this potential for the renewable resources and materials, more sustainable processes, cleaner production, bio-based materials, and just the general work towards circular economy is quite impressive. My first direct kind of follow-up question would be, how much of a scale-up potential do you see in this? I know that when we talk about textile industry, like you mentioned, it is a very vast industry with different needs and all that, but do you really see the potential in scaling up these to really an industry standard? Can the textile industry really become sustainable with the innovations that are being developed at the moment?
Yes, it's in fact now in position where some of presented activities are in the scale up or industrial application stage, and especially those which support movement towards circular economy and also dematerialization, because as you know, textile sector is depending very strongly on imported materials, starting by fibers through dye stuffs and also chemicals, which are mainly produced in Asia. And in Asia, governments are supporting, in the contrary to years ago, domestic market because the demand is growing as population there is growing, and it could be happen then European textile will be faced with a scarcity of raw materials, and of course things which are actual in Asia now, like water consumption and water scarcity, are coming also to Europe. So, for instance, this cationization system is introduced in India now as a way to the efficient utilization of water. Or things like durable FRs are supporting also protection of health, and of course they are influenced by very strict European legislation in the area of environment.
Yeah, so this is indeed a global challenge and not something that only the industry or the actors in Europe are struggling with. But I actually want to stop at the legislation point a little bit and piggyback off of that, because we did get another question from the audience, moving from the innovations and what is being developed within the industry into the kind of policy domain. In your opinion, what do you see as the role of local and regional policymakers in this mix? What can they do to support the move of the textile production into more circular models? Is there any kind of wishes that you would like to maybe send in the policymakers?
Yes, and I say fairly that for us here in Czech Republic, this exchange of information and learning from existing results and opportunities in industries was initiating activities focusing on this regional innovation strategy system, because we know now that in the contrary to Western European countries, where this regional level of innovations is practically common tool. Here in our country, it is starting, and of course, it's very helpful to open doors also for regional politicians to take part on general assemblies of tools like Regiotex Europe, because they see then in nature, let's say, how it works, because this is for them and also for us, of course, a new discipline. Yeah, so this regionally based activity is surely one of the best, because you are able to focus on regionally specific topics, and the system how to deal with is also very useful to learn each other.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And it's also something that I think I've seen in both yours and Martin's presentation, kind of very practice-based collaboration and true kind of needs-based exchange and building up those good ideas into more extensive solutions. One very last question, just very briefly. This comes from our expert, Astrid, whom we will meet a little later today. She's worried about the textile recycling and how the recycling rates are fairly low. Do you see some drivers that could speed up the textile recycling?
Yes, this is one of area where we try to start intensive search, because first problem is specification and analysis of existing waste and waste resources, and these are different. Some of them are produced and created by producer of textiles, where they are very often recycling those in own production. Second one, as I mentioned, for instance, is one of project we deal now with. It is a large area of hospital service and elderly people service textiles. Similarly, also hotel textiles, where there is still an advantage that it is possible to know more or less what's in, what's the basic substrate and which technologies or functionalities are used. And this is also a very well concentrated resource of materials for recycling. The most difficult, of course, is public sphere of communal waste, which is huge, and we think it is necessary also to introduce new tools how to recognize type of textile, and also new style of communication with clients supported by big retailers and brands, because it is known that consumers, especially younger people, are ready to follow green related trends, but it needs to be in a close relation with end supplier of those fashion articles, because textile producers are, let's say, too far to create an atmosphere of opened minds for following these green applications or green productions with eventual system for their recycling.
Yeah, so again, definitely a broad challenge, and one that most certainly needs collaboration to find a solution that works for everyone. Jan, at this point, I want to thank you very much for all the information you've shared with us and all those seeds of innovations. If we do get more questions, we'll pass them on to you for follow-up later on. But right now, I want to thank you for your contribution, and we'll move over to our next speaker and the next part of the program as well, because we've talked about projects and exchange of experiences and transfer of good practices, and we've seen that there is a lot of innovation across the regions and a lot of ideas that can be moved around. But if we start looking more at how to put these ideas really into practice, we have a tool for that in our projects as well, and those are pilot actions. I want to start talking about pilot actions, and for that I'm going to invite Matti Allam to join us from Film London. We're going to talk about a sector or a field that most of you are probably familiar with, TV production, and how to make that greener. Matti, do tell us what you have been working on in the green screen and as a follow-up of it. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mia. I hope you can all see my screen there. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting Film London and the Green Screen partnership to speak here. My name is Matti Allam. I'm the project manager for Green Screen, and as Mia said, we've been kindly invited to speak about our pilot project, which is an implementation of the something we found in the Green Screen partnership, which is very exciting. Before I talk about the pilot, I just want to give you a very brief overview who Film London is. We are maybe comparably a very unusual partner in Interreg Europe. We are a screen industries agency. We also host, under our umbrella organization of Film London, we also host the British Film Commission, which is responsible on the national level for inward investment of film and TV, high-end TV, to the UK, and Games London, which is around facilitating and supporting the games industry in London. The Green Screen Partnership has started in 2017, and what would be a European project without a beautiful European map? Our partnership, we are 8 partners ranging from regional development agencies such as Pro Malaga, Bucharest Regional Development Agency, and Rzeszów Regional Development Agency. And I see one of our partners is here on the call, which is great. Bucharest, big shout out. And also film commissions, which includes Paris, Flanders, and Slovakia, and a municipality in Ystad. So we're really delighted to have been working with these guys since, well, in this partnership since 2017. I just want to draw your attention, and that will make sense with you in a moment when I talk about the pilot. At Film London, we are really facilitating filming in the capital, and I've highlighted the section which will be of particular interest. London is a very busy city for filming on locations, and we have recorded 15,000 filming days in 2019. This might have slightly gone down in 2020 due to the pandemic, but it's going increasingly up again. I actually don't have the 2020 figures, so I don't want to say anything wrong, but we have been extremely busy since filming has restarted, and that was one of the industries which started the quickest again during the pandemic, as a matter of fact. Today, I want to talk to you about the pilot project that we have been awarded thanks to Interreg Europe. And this really came about through a learning we had at the staff exchange, which is one of the instruments that really is supported under Interreg Europe to facilitate the learning in the partnership. And we have discovered that our partner in Flanders, the Audiovisual Fund in Flanders, has had a cabinet plugging in for the film production, plugging into the mains network of supplying the location filming with energy, which not only saved a huge carbon emission of 93%, but also saved in terms of finances. You can see 20,000 euros is not an insignificant amount in a production budget. So we've taken this project to London, but have really adapted it to our needs. We have done a feasibility study to see what specifications are needed for the film industry, if we can use a similar sort of cabinet that plugs into the mains. But we really had to adapt that a little bit, and we were also keen to provide renewable energy. And the aim really is to replace the use of diesel generators on productions. You will see here, that's the picture, that's not the nice part of the film industry, the unexciting part of the film is these are the film trailers that you see on a unit base. This is where usually the costumes department is, the makeup, the catering, and etc. So how will it work? So what I meant by the adaptation, so really what the grid project will do is place a cabinet into the unit base, a fixed cabinet, and you see here that there are lots of requirements for the trailer to plug into this. So this is really how it will work, and it will supply renewable energy. The results and the benefits of that would be then to really significantly reduce the CO2 emissions by getting rid of generator use on the unit base, as well as nitrogen and particulate matters. So by plugging into, and that's really because we are supplying renewable energy through this cabinet. It will not only go into zero carbon and other polluting matters, but also noise pollution. So it's a health benefit and a really benefit for environmental benefit at the same time, which is really chiming in with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. The location we have chosen for the pilot project is really in East London, Victoria Park, for those of you who are familiar with the city. It's in a borough called Tower Hamlets, which has an enormous amount of filming days. You can see here over 1,400 in 2018 and 1,200 in 2019, and a proportion of that will use Victoria Park as a unit base to have their trailer park. This site we've also chosen, it's actually located in what we call an ultra low emission zone. That's the Mayor of London's zones, where it's really working across all sectors to reduce the emissions for residents and businesses, because it's important, as a lot of capitals in the have a real issue with reducing the pollution and reducing and improving the air quality in the city. In London, we have, I think last year, for the first time, reported a death due to air pollution, which was a young child. So, you know, this was actually on the death certificate. It was due to air quality in London. So this is really just to give you an overview, and we're really delighted to have received the support from Interreg Europe, and this has also really triggered the support locally from the Mayor of London and the LEAP, the Local Enterprise Partnership of London, which has given us further support for 2 other sites, as well as Victoria Park as a match funding to replicate this across other heavily used unit bases in London. And the additional benefit really that came about is also that, you know, in the future, when this is installed, it is being made mandatory to use the cabinets, but also events such as festivals that use the parks will also be able to plug into this and reduce their carbon footprint and noise pollution, which is extremely beneficial. So this is really where I finish my presentation, and I think Mia has a few questions for me. Thank you very much for listening. That was really brief, and please do follow us if you're using EU Green Week as a hashtag. Feel free to add us in there at GreenscreenEU, and our website has some enormously good on Interreg Europe Green Screen, enormously good resources with all the learnings. The pilot that I've talked to you about now is just a very brief snapshot, and I think, Mia, you have loads of other questions you'd like to ask me then.
I do. Thanks a lot, Matti. Again, a very inspiring example. And you kind of took my comment there, because I was about to say that this is, of course, just one of the examples of what you've been working on in the project. Yeah. And as such, I think it's very nice how you can, a seemingly simple idea. So the first question I want to ask, do you think you would have ended up with a solution like this if it wasn't for the project? Would you have come up with a simple solution to lower the emissions or get to a greener production with something like this without the element of exchange?
I think, I mean, at Film London, we have been working on sustainability since 2009 and have really galvanized this with this partnership more. And, you know, this is really the benefit of working in a European partnership. You find ideas you wouldn't have thought of, and you find solutions that are super interesting and really can be transferable to your context and your reality. And with Flanders in this partnership, they're really experienced partner in terms of sustainability. A lot of their funds that they give out are linked. You have a sustainability advisor and you have to report on your carbon emissions. So we learned a lot in the partnership, as well as, you know, transferring our knowledge. So I think it's difficult to say if we probably wouldn't have found this particular solution. I think it also gives you the courage to do it because it has been done and you have the support during the project that, you know, you can always, you know, ask those questions. How did you do it? And how did that work, or what the impact was? And it really, really helps to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's also a great example. I mean, you took the idea from Flanders, you're testing it now in London, and you already said that it's going to be extended to additional sites. How is the response been, let's say, beyond London? Are you seeing interest elsewhere? Or do you think it has the potential to be scaled up even further or extended?
Yeah, I mean, the film industry, it's the two stakeholders are particularly interested. Obviously, local authorities are under enormous pressure to reduce their carbon footprint and to become more sustainable, and particularly cities, in terms of what I said before, in terms of pollution, they're really conscious about that. Improving health and improving the environment go hand in hand in this matter. So there's certainly across other parts of the UK that interest. The film industry has really, we have a lot of inward investment in London. So American productions, filming in studios and on location. And I don't know if you have noticed, Netflix has recently announced to move towards a zero carbon by next year already. So, you know, we see a lot of interest from different production and film organizations to look at our solutions that we have found within Interreg Europe and the green screen, and particularly this project, the pilot, is particularly of interest. Whether it's, you know, can you transfer this to a studio location as well, you know, or to a different city. The British Film Commission is also involved in this project, in the pilot, and there's certainly the ambition to, you know, promote the learning UK-wide, so it can be adapted elsewhere as well. And I would say, you know, like, yeah, there's definitely a huge interest in how this practically works. And it's important to say, you know, it's an infrastructure. We are digging a trench to get the connection point to the to where it needs to be with the cabinet. So it really only works in partnership with local authorities, public stakeholders, and you know, I actually forgot to say there, we have an industry advisory group for this pilot. So, you know, the users of the cabinet are basically in that advisory group. So location managers, transport captains, and unit-based managers to really, so we have the spec right, so that it will be used. And then, you know, the usability of it is so important that, you know, it just doesn't stand there. There's one learning we've heard recently from a location in the US, that they've also installed cabinets, plug-in points for film productions, and they're not being used. So we're trying to learn why they have not been used, so we can also make sure, you know, that this doesn't happen in London. With the support from the mayor's office, really, from the Good Growth Fund that I've mentioned, we are also able to actually run an education part when the pilot is complete. So we are able to train people to use use this. So it's a great partnership that we were able to, you know, bring in from the mayor's office, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think you're making an excellent point there, because it's true that it's not just about the idea or testing it. It really has to work in practice as well. And I think it's very, very important to involve those who should be using it to make sure that it works. I want to stay on the practical side of your pilot and the solution for a little bit, because we do have a question here from the audience. Can you plug the unit into any main electricity line at different sites, or how is the renewable energy secured? Is there a supplier agreement, or how does it work?
Yeah, we have procured a renewable energy provider, which is Good Energy. And when we put out the tender, we really were keen that it's 100% renewable energy. So they have supplied us with a certificate that it is only renewable energy that they're supplying. And we're working really hand in hand with them to, you know, so we can monitor the usage. We know how to invoice the productions who are using this, and also integrate that into our booking system. So yes, we are working with with Good Energy. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for that. I think this covers the time we have for questions right now, because we do have 2 more speakers to follow up. So Matti, at this point, I want to thank you as well for your contribution. Very interesting solutions. I hope that all of you go and check out the Green Screen website and the additional solutions, because there is indeed plenty more from the project. You'll find the link in the chat. So pay a look at the information being posted there. So at this point, thank you. We'll come back to you towards the end of the session. Right now, I want to turn to our participants, because we've heard from projects, we've heard from experiences. How does this sound to you? Have you heard or seen something that could work maybe in your region or your context? We have another poll for you, and we want to get some inputs. Which of these could you make use of? Maybe the nano remediation solutions could be useful. Maybe you could develop something along those lines. Maybe you found something for the textile industry or more sustainable production, eco-creativity, circular economy models, or maybe the renewable energy option, whether it is in the film production or applied to another sector or activity, or maybe even more than one of these could be useful. Let us know. Again, it takes just one quick click, and I see that you are indeed clicking, so keep doing that. About half of you have voted. I'm going to wait for a few more votes to come in, because I think the results look very interesting, and we'll share them with you in just a moment, but I want to give a few more of you the chance to vote. So if you haven't voted yet, please do so now, because I will ask my colleague to close the poll now and share the results. This, I think, is very, very interesting. We have a lot of interest for the remediation solutions. We talked about them with Martin at the very beginning of the session. If you want to know more, do share your questions. We'll pass them on to Martin and you'll get more information. You'll also find information on the TANIA website, and again, additional links and resources in the chat. So make use of this opportunity to get information and further ideas. I also see that many of you are interested in all of the solutions, which is of course great for us to hear, because we do want to show that there are a lot of green solutions that can be applied in different contexts, and sharing and exchanging these ideas and innovations is really valuable. Some of you were not interested in any of these examples. Worry not, because there is a lot more as well. And I want to invite a thematic expert of our policy learning platform, Astrid Severin, to join me here, because she is the person who will tell you where you can find additional solutions. If none of the things we've talked about so far fit your needs, Astrid will tell you what else we can offer to you. Astrid, I'm going to leave the floor to you, and we'll talk after this.
Well, thank you, Mia. Good afternoon also from my side, and thank you to the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat for giving me the opportunity to present the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. and the services that are available to support regions and municipalities in implementing the circular economy and in reaching a zero pollution ambition. So my name is Astrid Severin. I'm a thematic expert for environment and resource efficiency and also low carbon economy at the Policy Learning Platform. Next slide, please. As some of you know already, we have heard in the first poll today, the Policy Learning Platform is a space for interregional learning. We aspire to support policymakers in delivering better policies by finding inspiration in a strong community of peers. To this end, we take stock from good practices from all over Europe, and we facilitate cooperation and networking and, of course, the exchange of knowledge. Next slide, please. We are focusing on 4 key areas, and you see here my colleagues from left to right who are working on research and innovation, SME competitiveness, the low carbon economy, which encompasses energy and mobility, and on environment and resource efficiency with my colleague Marco Citelli and myself. We work on a wide range of areas under environment and resource efficiency, including subjects from circular economy to natural and cultural heritage. Next slide, please. Amongst the 65 projects related to environment and resource efficiency, at least 26 are exchanging experiences and know-how on subjects such as the circular economy, industrial symbiosis, sustainable water and waste management, green public procurement. You also see the name of the TANIA project here, which is working with remediation. So a very wide range of areas covered by these projects, and a vast resource of knowledge in the form of strategies, methodologies, reports, good practices, and of course also experts that are available in these areas. Next slide, please. So to facilitate the interregional learning, the knowledge available through the Interreg Europe projects is prepared in a tailor-made way and offered by the Policy Learning Platform through 4 dedicated services. We have a knowledge hub where we're providing policy briefs, articles, and stories. We have a very big good practice database that features more than 2,000 good practices that have been validated by the experts. A community of peers with more than 18,000 members who are regularly participating in webinars and workshops, which we have had on-site and lately also online. Last week, we just had an e-workshop on living rivers as drivers for sustainable development. Very interesting experience, and it worked very well. And of course, we also offer direct expert support in the form of peer reviews, matchmakings, help desks where you can ask questions and inquire about specific policy challenges to our experts, who will then reply specifically to your issues. Next slide, please. With regard to waste management and zero pollution, we have recently drafted 3 policy briefs packed with information about the latest European policy developments, good practices, and inspiration for actions at regional and municipal level. So we focused on sustainable waste management in a circular economy. We have also been writing about separate waste collection, which is a hot topic with many regions, by the way, also for the separate collection of textiles waste. About sustainable water management in a circular economy, and we are currently drafting a policy brief on halting ocean plastic pollution that is due to be published this month. Next slide, please. So the events of the Policy Learning Platform are also very popular, both on-site in the good old-fashioned way, as well as online. So don't worry if you have missed our events so far. Follow-up articles and key learnings are always published right after each event. And the replays of our online events are available in the Knowledge Hub and on the YouTube channel of Interreg Europe. You can watch our recent webinars on water reuse and the European Green Deal, or the webinar on landfill rehabilitation. Our most watched webinars on circular economy business models is the one on circular economy business models that we have held 2 years ago with already 2,000 views. And we also held a webinar on biogas from biowaste last year The treatment of biowaste is a very important subject for regions that we want to achieve the recycling targets, and hence this webinar has already been watched more than 1,000 times. Next slide, please. I would also like to invite you to join us for our Green Week webinar tomorrow that is tackling the important issue of marine litter and plastic pollution. We have excellent speakers that will present the important report Breaking the Plastic Wave, and the colleagues from CAP on Litter will present policies to prevent marine litter resulting from tourism. We also have a testimonial on the situation in Crete, where the tourism industry is facing strong issues due to plastic pollution. And the Plasteco project will present its brand new report on reducing the use of single-use plastics. So don't hesitate, join us and register. We will find the link here on the slide, and my colleagues will also post it in the chat. Next slide, please. So I would like to highlight today the individual expert support that you can obtain through the policy learning platform. We have so-called policy help desks where you can ask the experts and receive a written policy advice online. In last week's webinar, we also tried online help desk meetings, which have also been quite useful. So maybe that's something we will offer more in the future. And if you have a very specific policy challenge, we can also organize more in-depth events where you team up with other European regions to get their feedback and recommendations. To this end, we organize targeted matchmakings. These are shorter online events. They can also be organized on site, of course. They take 1.5 to 2 hours. And we also work with peer reviews, 2 days on site or online. The policy learning platform provides support on the whole process for the organization of these peer reviews and matchmakings. We carefully select and brief the peers. We prepare the host region, the peer experts optimally for the actual meeting, and then deliver, of course, hands-on moderation with thematic guidance, draft recommendations, and the follow-up. So don't hesitate to contact us for that. The application for matchmaking or peer review is very easy and unbureaucratic. Just get in contact with us for some further guidance or click on the link that you will also find here on the slide or in the chat. Next slide, please. In the area of circular economy, we have held peer reviews already in Provence, Rhône-Alpes, Côte d'Azur, in France, of course, in Warmińsko-Mazurski in Poland, in Košice in Slovakia, and in Burgas in Bulgaria. Currently, we are preparing peer reviews in Greifswald and in Maribor, and also in Central Macedonia, which is going to be on the circular economy in the textiles and clothing industry. And so I want to already warn the colleagues from the Reset project that an invitation of a call for peers will come your way in the next days. So please don't hesitate to apply as a peer and support Central Macedonia in becoming circular in the textiles industry. So you see already the subjects are ranging very widely from this circular economy in the textiles industry to waste management, waste collection, circular economy strategies in an urban context, corporate social responsibility, landfill rehabilitation. So many of these policy challenges can be tackled in a peer review. Next slide, please. So the regions and municipalities appreciated particularly this outside look into their policy challenge, and they have all been very happy with the learning experience. The peers usually motivate the region to try out what has already been tested and worked out well in their region, and they also start to establish a cooperation with their like-minded peers. As a result, Warmińsko-Mazurski, Košice and Burgas have already been setting up action plans right away after the peer review, and now they're busy with the implementation of the recommendation. Warmińsko-Mazurski has also included the circular economy in the future regional operational program by securing financing of the recommended types of projects for small and medium-sized enterprises and public institutions under the objectives 1, 2, and 4. So that's also a very good result for a peer review. Next slide, please. So I would like to thank you, of course, for your attention. Please stay in contact with us. You find here the contact details. And if you like, please also keep up to date with the latest developments of the Policy Learning Platform. Subscribe to our Policy Digest and always see what is going on, where you can participate and find more information. As Mia has pointed out at the beginning, there is a lot of information, a lot of experts in good practices. So also for your particular problem, I'm sure we can help. Thank you.
Thank you, Astrid. Again, a very rich presentation and quite an option of services and opportunities to make use of. So even those who have already used the Policy Learning Platform services, I'm sure you haven't quite gone through the whole list, so there is more for you to discover. I don't have any specific questions about the services to you, Astrid, but I do want to relate back to what we've heard. We've talked about good practices, transferring them, taking inspiration from one region and moving it to another context. And you actually do quite a bit of this in your work as well. You're going through the good practices. You see all these examples coming from the project. So when it comes to the transferability or the potential, let's say, of a good practice, what is it that you're looking out for? What kind of elements? Is there something that catches your interest?
Oh, that's a very difficult question because transferability is quite a task to achieve. Usually what the regions or the municipalities are trying to do is to provide some focus on the key elements of a good practice and then see how they can transfer these key elements into their particular context, so that they can actually really apply it in their own context. This is a whole science, and there's no easy answer to this. So I'm afraid I will not be able to give you more detail than what I just said.
But I think this kind of shows why the Policy Learning Platform exists as well, because our team of experts, you among them, are there to help. So if someone is feeling a bit stuck or looking for new solutions, new ideas, what would be your recommendation? Where to start? Out of all the platform services, we've seen that there's policy briefs, there's webinars, there's peer reviews, there's all that. So what would be the easiest way to start looking for these ideas and solutions?
Well, we have a help desk, and you can very easily ask a question through the help desk in writing, and we will come back to you and then also propose which of the services might be the most relevant for you. So in some cases, it might just be a written help desk answer, which is very comprehensive as well. In other cases, we might recommend that you use other services. So I would start there, or the best and easiest ever is just write me an email. You have my contact, and then we will also get back to you.
Great, excellent answer. So we do indeed offer also tailored and personalized support. So if you need any help or ideas, just get in touch with us. Astrid, I want to thank you very much at this point, and we have one more speaker to go. So I will ask my colleague Nicolas Singer from the Joint Secretariat to join me. Nico is the head of unit in our projects and platforms team, and he will take you through what the future holds for interregional cooperation and Interreg Europe program in particular. Let's see how the green topics continue to feature on our agenda in the years to come. Nico, please tell us more.
Thank you very much, Mia. Good afternoon to you all. Can you see my screen? I hope so.
Yes, we can.
We can, marvelous. So yes, good afternoon. I'm very happy to close today with this final presentation. And the idea is really to end this webinar by opening up a bit the perspective and the vision. We started from very interesting and very practical, I would say, examples of what Interreg Europe can bring through the projects. And we would like now briefly to present you a bit the program perspective. You all know that, I think you all know, you're familiar with Interreg Europe, that this program is about the improvement of regional development policies. What I really like today is that sometimes we found this objective a bit abstract. People have difficulties in understanding what it means. And I think what we've heard today from Martin, from Jan, from Matti, really put flesh on the bones. You really understand what can be behind the project and behind this notion of public intervention and regional development policies. And the second thing I gain also today is to show that although we are really focusing on public intervention, you can also go quite far on the ground, working with the private sectors, as Jan reflected, going quite technical in the solution that brings a better life to the citizen in a way. And what I wanted to say on the current program, because I will also tell you a bit about the future, but I think sometimes we have a tendency to jump too quickly on the next programming period. So we wanted briefly to explain you and show you the main achievements and the main results when it comes to environment and green topics of the current program. As you see on the slide, this program has been very much focused already on environmental issues because 2 out of the 4 priorities are directly addressing green matters, low carbon economy, environment, and resource efficiency. But you may have noticed that even this afternoon before we heard the presentation of RESET project, which is in fact approved under research and innovation. So I wanted to say that even in economic development and innovation approaches, there's more and more integrated approach, and more of these projects also take into consideration the environmental dimension. So I would not say that environment is at the heart of everything that we do, but it's very well represented in Interreg Europe. Like Matti, I like maps also, and we like maps in Interreg Europe. So this is just to show you the added value of Interreg Europe through these maps and these thematic maps on the main environmental topics we cover. Interreg Europe, you see, go really much beyond cross-border cooperation or transnational cooperation. It's not only that we have a lot of different regions represented, but the cooperation we support, they have a very broad scope, a very European broad scope, as you may have heard also from the project that were presented today. If you dive a bit more in our 2 priorities, which are of interest to us this afternoon, the low carbon economy. In fact, the low carbon economy is the priority where we have the lowest number of projects. It's a bit below 1/4 of our approved project. We have 258 approved projects. And you see on the slide the main topics. We try to regroup this project under topics. The only thing I would highlight there is that maybe it's surprising, it was rather difficult to attract projects on renewable energy. We have only 9 projects so far focusing on this, and renewable energy is sometimes covered under low carbon strategy, of course, but maybe in the future this is an area we would like to develop more. And the most important element for us is, of course, the results of our projects. In low carbon economy, we are quite impressed by the leverage, we call it the leverage effect, meaning the funds that are mobilized at the local, regional, or national level to finance finally the inspiration or the good practices identified thanks to the project. And as you saw there, it's more than 350 million euros that have been already mobilized on the ground. If you look at environment and resource efficiency, this is in terms of project the most popular. A bit more than 1/4 of our projects are approved there. And this is a bit of a surprise for us because it started very slowly, this priority. At the beginning, we had difficulties in the 2 first calls to attract projects under that priority, and we had to launch a dedicated campaign on this topic, and it worked really well because thanks to the last and 4th call that we organized, a high number of projects were approved under that topic. You see that in terms of more specifically the themes that are tackled, we have 2 big groups: energy, resource efficiency, and the circular economy group. And we have everything that is related to cultural heritage and natural preservation, let's say. It's also interesting to see that the leverage effect is a bit less high because it's around 100 million euro mobilized. So it may mean that the measure on the investments are maybe softer in the regions for this kind of policies. In particular, since the number of policy improvement we have achieved in the program is higher than in the other priority I've just presented. So this is something quite interesting to notice. This is it for the current program. I'm sure you're interested also on what comes next. And I will say a quick word on what's going to happen under the 2021 to 2027 period. And we used to summarize the new program by saying this is an evolution and not a revolution. The first thing you have to understand is that the overall rationale and positioning of Interreg Europe remains the same. And you see that through the key objective of this program, where you have two important elements. We are still there to improve regional development policies, so the overall objective doesn't change at all. And the way through which we achieve that remains also more or less the same. We are a capitalization program. We are there to identify and transfer good practices. So we call that capacity building, exchange of experience, and why not, when possible, development of innovative approaches. In terms of area and budget, there's a slight evolution, which was not expected in a way, at least as far as the budget is concerned, because the budget will slightly increase by 20 million euro. This is very surprising when you take into consideration the Brexit and the fact that Interreg Europe was not even included in the first proposal of the Commission for the new programming period. So this is a nice surprise at the end. Unfortunately, at the same time, we are losing, of course, one country. Our UK colleagues will no longer be part of the program for the next programming period due to Brexit, of course. What about the focus? If you look at the overall thematic coverage, there's here a more important change is that we move from a traditional program architecture with 4 thematic priorities into a much simpler, I would say, organization, only one cross-cutting priority dedicated to capacity building. So this is really a recognition that this program is about capacity building, exchange of experience on a lot of different areas of regional development, because as you see in the small design on the right part, more or less all regional development policy issues will become eligible in the future. What is important for you to know is that low carbon economy, environment and resource efficiency will remain completely relevant. They will be integrated in what is called now the Greener Europe. And under this Greener Europe, the scope is even broader. We will have risk management represented. We will have climate change, which were a bit less present in the current program. All this will be possible in the future. And also the good news, I think, for you who are involved in environmental issues is that the member states propose an indicative concentration principle. They would like that around 80% of the budget allocation are spent on smart and green Europe. So still a big bulk of the money will go to environmental issues in the next programming period. Let's go now to the means so that we use the actions to achieve this program objective, the projects and the platform. There's no change in that regard, so still the same 2 actions. When you look at the projects, I would say that the key word is more flexibility, make the life of the beneficiaries, the project partners, easier. The first element that reflects this is the focus on structural funds. I don't know if you know, but we had quite a pressure in the current program to improve the programs at local or regional or national level, ERDF program, operational program. In the future, it will be lighter for the projects, and it will be reflected in the sense that in a project, it's sufficient if only one of the policy addressed will be an investment for growth and jobs program. So we make, again, the life of the beneficiary easier in the future. We have a bit the same kind of organization. There will be still 2 phases in the future, but again, we try to listen to the beneficiaries during this period and to take on board some of the lessons learned. And a lot of our project partners, they were finding these 2 phases a bit rigid currently, phase 1, phase 2. So we would try to make this a bit more flexible in the future, and in particular to keep on the learning in the follow-up phase, and it will be up to each project to decide on its follow-up phase. At the end of the day, the core phase remains at the heart of what we are doing. This is a capacity building phase, and ideally, the region should improve their regional development policies at the end of this phase, which has a direct impact on the notion of action plans, because we are also making this much lighter in the future. only the regions that did not improve their policies at the end of the core phase will have to produce an action plan. All the others, because they would have reached their objective, they will not need to produce an action plan. Last but not least, the program will be more flexible when it comes to pilot actions, not only because this was a wish of the partner states, but also because the regulation introduced this notion of innovative actions. So these pilot actions will be possible from the start of the project, which was not possible in the current program. So in the preparation phase, if the partners already identified some practices or some experience to be tested, they will be able to propose that already in the application form. And finally, of course, we will continue with the stakeholder group as it is the case in the current program. I will be very quick on the platform because I think Astrid did a great presentation, explain all the services. There will not be any revolution again on that. We are building on the current successes, and we will continue what Astrid has mentioned, what is about the knowledge hub, having access to the knowledge, to the publications, to the good practice database. We will continue organizing meetings so people can meet each other, can have networking opportunities, and the most elaborated services when you need a more advanced accompanying measures from the experts, you can apply to the peer reviews, you can use the policy help desk. This will continue and maybe will be enlarged in the future program. That's mainly it. I was a bit quick, but we are looking forward to working also with you in the next programming period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nico. I think you did a great job in summarizing both where we are and where we're going. So I don't have a specific question for you, but instead I would invite all of our speakers to turn on their cameras because I want to do a very quick concluding a round of comments. We've covered a lot of ground today. We've heard a lot of examples, a lot of solutions, a lot of transfer of experiences and good practices. For me, the message is that solutions exist. We just need to work together to find them and to make the best use of them. Now, I want to hear from each of you in one sentence. What is the key takeaway that you want to give to our participants today as a take-home message? Let's go in the order of presenters. So Martin, I will let you start. Unmute your mic and let us know what your key takeaway is.
Okay. Well, one thing is that you can find solutions within Europe, for example, and also other parts of the world. And by combining different solutions, you come up with novel ideas that solve unsolved questions from before, and that will also generate the business and prosperity. Thank you.
Excellent, and I think you also showed that in your presentation. So this is a very, very good summary of that as well. Jan, what about you? We cannot hear you yet. Let's unmute your microphone first, and then let's get a quick comment. All right, it seems that we are having some sound issues. Let's jump over to Matti. What would be your...
It is okay.
Okay, now we hear you.
Because
Excellent.
you muted me and I was not able to activate. Yes, especially in a branch like textile, which is a typical sector of plenty of small and medium companies. And you know well that it is very innovative sector because fashion is changing now more as 2 times per year. It is necessary to care about good information resourcing, B, influence on the customer's market, and C, which is now crucial, preparing acceptable ways how to get circular economy and sustainability of resources, because the trend is rising volumes of textiles. It's open at question how to change this situation. and also this mentioned dependency on non-European resources are opening new discipline, which is introduction of recycled fibers and renewable fibers of natural base or bio-based. So this is area where it is necessary to get very intensive exchange of situation.
Definitely. Thanks for that. That's quite a package solution, but it's a good point that we do indeed need to look beyond Europe as well, and well, beyond our own regions, of course. Matti, what would you add from your perspective?
I think working in European projects, you always find something that you didn't know before. You don't know what you don't know. And then in a European partnership, particularly with Interreg Europe, you work with different kinds of people that also are different to your organization, and you find something. And also not only finding solutions, but you also bring something to the table. And just to chime what Martin said, you come up with something new. And I'm sorry, Nicolas, that we are the one dropping out of the program in the UK. I'm very, very sorry to say that, but we have a really great mayor in London who's very pro-European, and we continue our partnerships for sure at Film London with on the European level, just in a different way. And I'd like to, just as a takeaway, we're still here. We're still here.
That's a great message as well. Cooperation continues one way or another. Right. Astrid, what about
in the future with Scotland?
Yeah, well, London is here too, so London is saying, yeah.
Well, let me continue with one sentence on that. So the policy learning platform is open until the end of this program. So I think it's 2023, and you can participate in it also from the UK, even though you have already Brexited. So my sentence was going to be, as one of our hosts of a peer review said, we don't have to invent the wheel. The wheel has already been invented, and we can learn from others how they have been using it. And so I would just invite you to make use of these opportunities and of our services to learn and to implement the important sustainable developments in your own region. So we need all of you to work on that.
Yes, perfect summary. Thank you, Astrid. Nico, you have the final word here. What is your takeaway?
Wow, this is an heavy responsibility on my shoulder. No, what I said is that what I was very impressed this afternoon is how technical sometimes some of the content we exchange can be. And I would conclude by saying, after having seen all this, that again, interregional cooperation works, can be very practical, and contribute to sustainable development. That would be my conclusion.
So let's keep working together. Let's make use of those solutions in practice, turn them into actions. Now, my very last practical comment to our participants is that, as Astrid mentioned, we do have another webinar coming up tomorrow. You're most welcome to join us there. The link will be in the chat. That'll be on marine litter and plastic pollution. If marine litter is not your topic, we will be in the Green Week exhibition all week long, so you can come and meet us there. The colleagues are on standby to chat or do a quick video call. So come and ask us more questions, learn more about the topics we work on, and let us help you to find the solutions that you are interested in. This is all we have for you today. This session has been recorded. You'll get a link with the follow-up and the materials very, very soon. We have one last poll for you, which is going to go up right now. We just want to hear what you thought about this session. Did this webinar meet your expectations? Yes or no? Let us know. Also, once you exit the session, there will be an evaluation, and we hope you give us some feedback for further development of our work. So the work continues. We hope to see you as we continue. I think most of you have already voted. That is very, very quick. I'll give a few seconds to some last votes to come in. That is it. This is all from us today. We will close the poll. I want to thank all of our speakers. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Let's keep in touch. Let's cooperate. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.